Hello, hello, and welcome. My name is Paralantius, and welcome back. Or welcome if you're new here, of course. I'm bringing you another spec overview. Make sure to check all my other spec overviews. I've got Arms Warrior, Fury Warrior done. There should be more, depending on when you're watching this. There's also a whole number of guides for beginner PvPers. Crowd control, looking over crowd control, macros, positioning. There's breakdowns for warrior classes like world warrior comps and stuff like that for threes, and also some RPGs look throughs and breakdowns there as well for you for like target calling and things like that. So make sure to subscribe if you like this type of content and a bit more. Let's get into this DK overview. Looking at Frost DK, we're looking at a melee class, strong AoE DPS and burst, low mobility, low defensives. So if you are playing as a Frost DK, expect to have people on you. Don't play too overly aggressive unless you have your defensive cooldowns up and know which defensive cooldowns you're actually looking at, which are going to be good and which are going to be bad for the certain situations that you're in. So as we said, low mobility, low defensives. If you're playing against that Frost DK, chances are you're going to be going the Frost unless it's a better priority target or you want to go healer. So with the lack of mobility for a Frost DK, if you can get them in a bad position, they'll have to use their Wraith Walk, or if they use their Wraith Walk, which is their main getaway spell, which makes them immune to roots, and they can also increase their speed. If they've already used that, they can put them in a terrible position to be pulled awkwardly and force their healer out. They have limited defensive cooldowns, but their damage is also very, very good, and they have some pretty good defensive cooldowns. So we'll get into that a bit later, but when we're looking at the DPS cooldowns, what we're looking at is Breath of Syndergosa. This is one of their major defensive cooldowns. It's an AoE sort of conal frost, spitting out frosty type looking stuff that drains their runic power and deals damage based on that, and will run out when they have no runic power. So if you are a Frost DK, you're going to be using that when you have as much runic power as you possibly can, and you're in a good position to not need to have to use runic power as a defensive. But if you're going up against the Frost DK, pressuring them when they're trying to burst like this can also be a really good way of putting them on the back foot, because there's a sort of a trade out for when they use their runic power, or if they're using their Breath of Syndergosa. If you make them use runic power defensively, or stuff that isn't directly towards following out this damage, you can not only reduce their damage, but also put them in a really terrible position. For example, if they are using the Breath of Syndergosa and you force them down to the point where they need to use their Icebound Fortitude, and so by CCing their healer and putting loads of damage into them, they're going to have to either use that and use a Death Strike to get some health, or they won't be able to, and they'll just die because they can't, like healer, they don't have AMS or something like that to heal themselves up. Another big DPS cooldown is Pillar of Frost. Now, Pillar of Frost and Breath. So Breath is 2 minutes. Pillar of Frost is 1 minute. So Pillar of Frost is their sort of mini burst that we talk about frequently on this channel. So that's the burst that they're going to be having every minute, and then Breath of Syndergosa is every other big burst sort of thing, and then you'll have Pillar of Frost and Syndergosa at the same time doing a significant amount of damage. Other defensive cooldowns, offensive cooldowns are Hungering Rune Weapon. This is a 3-minute cooldown. This is their sort of big one where they here it is. Empowers your rune weapon, gaining 1 rune for every 5 runic power instantly for every 1.5 seconds for 15 seconds. This is just a really big way of getting their runes back to just spend out and really just do a lot of damage. This is essentially like they'll pop it frequently at the start to like get it going. It's not something that you need to necessarily watch for that much because it's every 3 minutes. It's sort of like that, oh crap, there's going to be a big burst when Breath, Hungering Rune Weapon, and Pillar of Frost, you're going to get significant damage about that. But it's not really something that you can actively counter or actively just see in things, so it's not too huge. You're mainly going to be watching out for grips into setups around Frost DKs. For example, if it's frequently played in TSG, if you play TSG with Frost, it's going to be a grip in into like a shockwave and then AoE burst damage you're popping your pillar and you're getting your breath syndicator out there, and also having your chill streak bouncing in between the targets, which deals a significant amount of damage, but is now not as strong as it was before. But let's continue on and get through this a bit quicker. So when we're looking at the defensive cooldowns, you have anti-magic shell. So anti-magic shell is an anti-magic shell essentially. It's absorbs magic damage. It's 30% of the health, and it will absorb any magic things that are going into them. So if you're trying to use CC on them, it's not going to work when they have a mess up. Any of that's just going to be nullified. And this defensive does not work against physical attacks. So if a warrior is on you and only a warrior is on you, do not pop AMS. It does nothing. Nada. It only does things to the minute amount of magic damage that comes off of Berserker's rage off the weapon, but that's like minimal damage. So like, don't use it. You can still get executed through it. Another defensive is anti-magic zone, which is kind of like based into the utility as well. So it's like a zonal area, which is good against casters. So like you can stack in there if you're taking a lot of raw damage while your healer cleans you up and gets rid of and dispels you up. So that's a really good utility, but also defensive. You have Icebound Fortitude, which we talked about before, which gives you a significant amount of healing with your death strikes at the cost of using your unit power, of course. And then we talked about Wavefuck. We have Death Strike, which is normally used with Icebound Fort, but you can just be Death Striking normally just to get some of your health back. So these are these limited, not heavy immunity defenses that we talk about. It's not like you don't have a pally bubble, you don't have like 100% parry, you don't have these big ones. So this is why a Frost DK is often a really good target to go, and this is why you also need to be wary of overextending offensively, like at what cost, because if you think you might be getting a kill and you're like, oh, let's get this kill, and then you die, yeah, it can happen. So you need to be careful that way. But then also, if you're going up against a DK, use that to your advantage. When we're talking about utility, we're talking about Dark Simulacrum or Dark Sim. You can steal a thing that gets cast, like you can steal Monk Bubble, Clone, Polymorph, things like that. Pretty useful to do and just get off some instant CC. AMZ, which we talked about before. Grip, which is like your death grip, which is mainly going to be most of your setups are going to be based around that, or you can use it to interrupt casts, put healers in bad positions, gripping people in for kills, stuff like that. Especially in RBGs, gripping back flank carriers, gripping in healers to put them in out of position. That's their main thing. And then you have like, chains and a lot of the slows that come with Frost Death Knights as their means of keeping the target near them because they're poor mobility. When we also look at utility, we of course have the kick, which is less than the warriors. So you make sure the warrior kicks first if you're playing TSG, but it's also ranged. So there's that. It's pretty damn good having a ranged kick. So also bear in mind that if you're a healer and a Frost DK's on you and they're not necessarily right on top of you, they're still going to be able to get you with the kick, and also it's magic, so it can go through Bob. Alternative utility comes in talents. It's in the Yala talents. We're looking at specifically Heartstop Aura and Delirium. These decrease the Heartstop Aura decreases the cooldown recovery rate of abilities by 20% for all enemies in 8 yards. Just messes with your CDs, so you can get less damage out, etc. Delirium is for against like it's essentially you use it to get rid of blinks off mages and stuff like that. And we also have Decomposing Aura, which is a reduction in health over time. So what we learned from that is those are essentially all the things we're looking at. We're looking at a high DPS spec, high DPS melee spec, which lacks mobility and has a kind of okay amount of utility. It's not great, but I was talking to a DK that I do TSG with, and he says that Frost scales really nicely as you get more artifact into it, and we've been playing quite a bit of Arms Frost. It does a lot of damage. It's really fun to play. It's more of a bursty around setups, like you need to grip in, stun, that's when you're going to get your kills. That's where it's more dangerous, around these burst windows. When if you're looking at Unholy, it's going to be more consistent damage. So if you're looking at burst, Frost is the sort of one you want to play with, based on like setups and burst cooldowns. Whereas Unholy is more of a, you get more stuns, more control with mechanical with pets. They're tankier. There's more consistent damage. You get that Mortal Strike effect. So Frost, burst damagey, heavy hitter, really fun to play. I haven't bothered to level mine up yet because I've been mainly sticking with my warrior. But I hope that was helpful. I managed to keep it to just over 10 minutes, which is pretty good. So like if you like, dislike if you didn't, and of course tell me why you didn't. And let me know if you want to see anything else. Join my Discord, watch my Twitch. I'll have plenty of more of these videos out soon. Let me know if you want anything slightly different, and I can get onto that and weave it into the mishmash videos that we got going. But anyway, appreciate you all, and peace. Hello there, and thanks for watching my video. Make sure to subscribe if you like what you see, and like if you liked it, dislike if you don't. Please comment to let me know what you want to see in the future, and make sure to come tune in and watch me on Twitch. I'm live from 12 a.m. or 12 midnight GMT for normally about 6 hours, playing a whole bunch of games. Hopefully I'll see you there.